I'm Sam Opeche, and I'd like to welcome you to my weekly broadcast on the Marriage Workshop. Now, my plan, my purpose, my intention for doing this weekly broadcast is to start to bring your way wisdom and life-changing information contained in my book, Don't Get Married Until You Are Single. Don't get married until you are single. Now, this book was recently released on the 28th of January 2018. And I can tell you something, folks. It's already affecting the lives of a sizable number of people. As an author, it brings me so much joy and delight to read from people saying to me, thank you. Thank you for the way you have packaged the wisdom and the life-changing information in your book. Now I can say that I fully understand what it means to be truly single. That brings me so much satisfaction. I'm reading from married people and they're saying to me, we never thought that we could get past our issues. We never thought that we could find a meaning for our marriage until we read your book. Thank you for the simple way that you have made it possible for us to see beyond the issues that we're having. And you know something, folks? I ask myself the question, why are married people unhappy? Have you ever wondered, why are some married people unhappy? Because when you think about it, before they came to this place of unhappiness, they had what seemed like love and affection for one another. And as a counselor, I come across people on a regular basis who come to me with their issues. Married people that come to me with their issues. And when I start listening to them, I can tell that there was once upon a time they had so much love and affection for one another. And then I'm asking myself, how did they get to this place where they seem so unhappy, where they just cannot stand each other? And I have to tell you, the answer is singleness. The answer is singleness. If you are unhappily married, if you feel that your marriage is not bringing you the level of happiness, satisfaction, fulfillment that you thought it was going to bring you, I can tell you, you were unhappy as a single. Because it takes an unhappy single to make an unhappy couple. Basically, what I'm saying is that you cannot have unhappiness in marriage unless you never fulfilled your single life. When you don't fulfill your single life and you run into marriage and you rush into marriage and you go into marriage because you were led to believe that marriage is will be the only solution to your issues. I mean, it beggars belief sometimes when I hear from people saying, I thought he was going to bring me joy. I thought he was the right man. I thought he was the right woman. I thought that when I married this guy, that he was going to make me so happy that I will forget all of my sorrows. It beggars belief to me as a counselor that people have this notion going into marriage. People were led to believe that marriage is the solution for all of their problems. That once they get married, loneliness will go away. Once they get married, their sense of insecurity will go away, only to find out 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, however many years it takes for this thing to unearth itself, only to find out then that the marriage is not bringing this level of fulfillment. Why is this the case? I ask myself. And I came to the conclusion that singleness is the reason why this is the case with a lot of married people. And the simple truth I'm passing across to you today is that if you are unhappily single, you are most likely going to end up unhappily married, unless you encounter change as a single man or as a single woman, unless you harness the virtues, the qualities that are ingrained in you, unless you settle down and begin to prepare yourself for the marriage that you are looking forward to. And most people I see don't take the time to learn about themselves. I mean, how can you want to share yourself with people when you are not even comfortable with yourself? How could you want to share yourself with somebody when you are full of issues in yourself? Now, the only solution, the only antidote to ensuring that you don't carry this into marriage, because believe me, I'm telling you, believe me, marriage would never take away those things. Instead, if there is anything that marriage will do, it's that it will expose it. Marriage, many people don't realize, is a place where your insecurities are exposed. Is a place where your loneliness is exposed. Is a place where your sense of deficiency is exposed. Is a place where those things that you thought that marriage was going to hide is exposed. That's why it's so vital, it's so critical, it's so important that you don't get married until you become single. Because if you remain unhappy as a single, if you remain unhappy as a single and you never move to the place of truly being single by singleness, and you rush into marriage or you get into marriage, what you will find is that a few years after marriage, you'll be looking for a way of escape. And let me say this: divorce is not God's plan. I have read through the Bible. I have looked through the chapters of the scriptures, and I can't find anywhere where God made a plan for divorce. Divorce is not God's plan. If you want to avoid divorce in your marriage, if you want to have a fulfilling marriage, if you want to have a marriage that is complete, a marriage that is productive, focus on your single life. Focus on becoming the best man or the best woman you can be, so that when you get married to your husband or to your wife, you share with them good qualities, good virtues, the kind of virtues that makes them desire continuously your presence, not the kind of virtues that makes them, avoid you, as it were. Now, I am going to read one or two things from this book. There are 15 truths that are contained in this book. For those of you who have read it, you would have known it. But let me just read out a couple of them. 15 truths contained in this book. Number 1, you don't have to be married to be happy in life. Now let me say that again. You don't have to be married to be happy in life. Many people think that they are nothing until they get married. And this is a lie. This is a lie because, like I said earlier on, that state of insecurity, that sense of deficiency, that sense of loneliness, if it follows you into marriage, would only be exposed. You don't have to be married to be happy. You can be happy as a single. You can enjoy your single life and fulfill your single life and live with vitality for God by understanding the purpose, by understanding, the gift that God has put inside of you and working those gifts to bring them to a maximum utilization. When you get busy doing that, when you get active doing that, before you know it, your life will attract the kind of man or the kind of woman that is fitted and suited for you. Because I believe something. I believe that God does not make a mismatch. No, He doesn't. So if you're not preparing yourself for marriage, if you're not getting yourself ready by exercising your single life, by living with purpose, by living with vitality, why should God bring you a man or a woman who has prepared themselves, as it were? Because then you are not worth that person. So, contrary to the belief that so many people have, you don't have to be married to be happy in life. Number 2. Some of the loneliest people on earth are married people. That may come to you as a shock. But I sit down every week with a lot of people, emails, messages coming from all over the place. And as I'm sifting through these things, especially from married people, I see the sense of loneliness that is existent in so many marriages. Married people constitute most of the loneliest people that you could ever come across. So don't live under this false impression that because you hook up to Mr. A or Mrs. or Miss B, that is going to take away your loneliness. No, it exposes it. It brings it to the fore. Number 3, that the discovery of your singleness and the cultivation of the virtues you've discovered are your strongest assets for a fulfilling marriage. The discovery of your singleness and the cultivation of these things you have discovered. Because it is one thing to discover something, it's another thing to cultivate that thing you've discovered. Many people have a picture of what it looks like to have a good marriage. Maybe something they watched in Hollywood or a film, or there's just this fantasy somewhere in the mind of what a good marriage looks like. They discover it. They see it. Maybe they have an uncle or an aunt or some close friend whose marriage they desire to have. But it is one thing to have a desire. It is another thing to work and cultivate that desire. If you don't cultivate, if you don't harness, if you don't work at the singleness you discovered, you are not preparing yourself for a fulfilling marriage. Number 4, your lack of discovery of your singleness and your inability to cultivate it will be your greatest downfall in marriage. Like I said, if you discover something and you don't cultivate it, you don't work what you've discovered, you're just going about, talking about it or reading about it. A lot of people read about stuff, but they don't practicalize the things that they've read. So those things that they've read never actually become reality for them, because it's just something intangible. It's just something they've read. It's just a message they listen to. You can attend conferences. You can sit down before, as many counselors as you want to sit down with, until you actually begin to cultivate this life of singleness. You are not getting ready for a fulfilling marriage. In fact, those things may contribute to the downfall of your marriage. Let me read one or two more. Your capacity to receive love is directly proportionate to your capacity to give love. I'll say that again because it's quite important. Your capacity to receive love is directly proportionate to your capacity to give love. You cannot love somebody else if you don't love yourself. If you're not comfortable with yourself, you cannot be comfortable with somebody else. If you don't enjoy your own company, you cannot enjoy the company of someone else. If you don't cherish your time of singleness, you can never cherish whatever time you spend with somebody else. Until you come to accept yourself for who you are, you would always carry about with you a sense of deficiency. You become like somebody who has a problem all the time. You have a pessimistic view about life, and that would affect negatively your husband or wife to be. So you need to come to a place where you love who God has created you to be. You just love the person. Now, I'm not saying that you should ignore your weaknesses. In fact, I'm saying the contrary, because the life of singleness helps you to deal with your weaknesses. Everybody has weaknesses. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I'm not saying that you should ignore them, but I'm saying that you accept yourself. I see a lot of people who are coming from background. In fact, I ran into a young lady recently, and she said to me, Sam, I just find it difficult to keep a relationship. And when we got talking, I discovered that one of the things that makes it difficult for this lady to keep a relationship is that every man that comes into her life, every man that she dates or she dates, she sizes them based on her background. Now she came from a very poor background. And whenever a man comes to her, whenever the guys come to her, she's looking at, what is their bank account? What's their financial status? Have they got a car? Have they got a house? She's looking for security. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes, if that's all you see in a man as a woman, it can discolor who a real man, who the true person that should be your husband is. It can discolor it. And the reason why this young girl felt this way was because she had said to herself that she doesn't want to experience again the life of poverty that she experienced growing up. So she wants to start marriage on a high. She's looking for a wealthy man. So when the man comes, he may not have money. He may not have financial well-being at the minute, but he's got prospect. But she doesn't consider that. She's only looking for what he has now. And that has affected her over the years, that, she just finds it difficult to keep a relationship. And I think it's because she has refused to accept herself. She has refused to accept that she didn't create her background. In fact, one of the things I said to her, I said, look, it's not your fault that you were born poor. It's not your fault that you were born into a poor family. You had no contribution to make about where to be born. You were just born. You were just born into the family you were born into. So why should you allow that to shape your future? I said to her, it's not your fault that you were born poor, but it is your fault if you remain poor. And I said that because I believe that perception is discolored, and that perception is a poor perception, because you don't size a man just by the content of their outward material, by the content of what they have on the outside. That's not what makes a real man. What makes a real man is on the inside. And what brings out what's on the inside is the concept of singleness. Now, I hope that this has made a little bit of sense. As I said to you when I started, my plan, my purpose, my intention for doing this is to start to bring wisdom and life-changing information from this book. Go and get your copy if you haven't, because I tell you, this book is affecting the lives of a sizable number of people. And I know that this is just a sign that this book is relevant for the now. Because and this has got to stop. This doesn't have to continue. We can get it right. We can change the course of our married lives by living a happy, productive, fulfilling single life. I'm going to come back to you next week as I continue on this broadcast, bringing you wisdom and life-changing information from the book, Don't Get Married Until You're Single. Until next week, thank you very much for tuning in, for watching this broadcast. I'm Sam Opeche from the Marriage Workshop.